Today's episode takes us to a landscape where desert and grassland meet, a narrow band of land that has shaped the destiny of nations. The Sahel. It's a place of striking contrasts, where the dry breath of the Sahara gives way to the green pulse of the savanna, where traders, farmers and empires once converged in the struggle between abundance and survival. Here, rivers carve lifelines through shifting sands, and centuries of rainfall, or its absence, have decided the rise and fall of kingdoms. It was in this uncertain landscape that one of Africa's greatest civilisations emerged, the Mali Empire, a realm of immense wealth, legendary rulers, and enduring influence. From the bustling markets of Djenné to the golden journeys of Mansa Musa, this is the story of how geography, trade, and faith intertwined to create a power unlike any other in medieval Africa.
The History of the World podcast, written and presented by Chris Hasler.
And we're live on match day as Doug reaches for a buffalo wing. He's got it! Oh, and he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! What a finish! There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Volume 4, The Medieval World. Episode 95, The Mali Empire. Today's episode takes us to the Sahel region of Africa. The Sahel is a region of immense historical significance, forming the southern border of the Sahara Desert, where it transitions into savanna. It is the meeting point between the trading societies of the savanna and those of North Africa and beyond. Despite its advantage as a crossroads between two vibrant commercial cultures and its potential as a financially enriching geographical midpoint, its geography can also work against it. Annual rainfall is unpredictable, leaving the region vulnerable to periods of drought. If the name Sahel sounds familiar to those of you who've been following the podcast, it may be because you recall our very first episode where we discussed the discovery of a prehistoric fossil, an ancient relative of modern humans named Sahelanthropus chadensis, found in the Sahel region of Africa, specifically in Chad. It is important to note, however, that the Sahel stretches across the entire width of the continent, from Senegal and Mauritania in the west to Sudan and Eritrea in the east. This episode will focus on the part of the Sahel located in present-day Mali, where the Great Mali Empire was once centred. Life in the Sahel can be challenging, but proximity to an oasis or river system can make a significant difference. The Niger River, the third longest in Africa, provides a vital lifeline in this semi-arid region. Its valley is home to fertile floodplains, replenished regularly with nutrient-rich soil ideal for agriculture. Neolithic societies dating back as far as 6,000 years likely began fishing the river using rudimentary tools. The river's seasonal flooding created an environment that encouraged fish migration, sustaining fishing communities over generations. We can be confident that the rice species, commonly known as African rice, has been cultivated in the floodplains of the Niger River Valley for at least 2,000 years, though some estimates suggest it may go back as far as 3,000. Pearl, millet and sorghum were likely successful crops even earlier, cultivated in upland areas away from the river before African rice took root in the floodplain zones. The Sahel has always been vulnerable to climatic fluctuations due to its transitional geography. Sustained periods of low rainfall could have devastating consequences for the peoples, societies and polities that emerged, thrived and sometimes vanished from the region. It is likely that the Mali Empire prospered during a period of abundant rainfall. When rains were plentiful, societies expanded northward towards the Sahara. But when rainfall declined, populations retreated southward, sparking competition and conflict over the remaining fertile lands. Trade routes too flourished during wet cycles and were disrupted during dry ones. Those all-important trans-Saharan routes could become impassable in times of drought. Throughout this episode we'll explore how climate change compares to the rise and fall of Sahelian empires. The floodplain of the Niger Delta was the site of an early urban centre known as Djenné, which may have emerged around 250 BCE. Located in present-day Mali, near the modern city of Djenné, the name Djenné translates to ancient Djenné in the Soninke language, an ancient West African tongue still spoken today. The health of the floodplains allowed the city to flourish, with evidence of rice cultivation and fishing supporting a growing population. The people of Djenné were also skilled in animal husbandry, maintaining a thriving domesticated farming lifestyle. Their expertise in ironworking and ceramics points to a robust urban economy with trade links to other settlements along the Niger River and beyond. By 800 CE, the city may have housed between 20 and 30,000 individuals, demonstrating West Africa's capacity for urban development on par with other regions of the ancient world. What's particularly intriguing is the apparent absence of a centralised ruling elite. There are no palatial buildings or monumental structures, suggesting a coexistence of communities with a dominant hierarchy, remarkable given the population size. It raises the question, how did they coexist without conflict? There must have been some form of governance. Scholars believe the population may have been organised into specialised groups, traders, artisans, family units, and that a council of representatives from these groups could have maintained order. It's a mystery that invites further investigation. Specialised roles within the community likely required strong intergroup relationships. Blacksmiths, for example, were highly respected and may have played a key role in maintaining peace. The tools and weapons they produced were essential for both agriculture and defence. Boat makers were also esteemed, enabling fishermen to gather food efficiently and facilitating long-distance trade. Evidence of granaries at Djenné points to successful agricultural yields and a well-managed food supply.
The Ghana Empire.
While the city of Djenné was prospering, a new power was emerging to the west across the Sahel. This was the Ouagadougou Empire, more commonly referred to as the Ghana Empire. Northern interest in West African and Sub-Saharan produce, such as that supplied by settlements like Djenné, placed the people of what would become the Ghana Empire in a prime position to act as mediators, increasing their own value and wealth as a consequence. The Berbers of North Africa had mastered the use of the dromedary camel, an animal capable of efficiently and reliably transporting goods across long distances in harsh desert conditions. This form of transport was introduced to the Western Sahara from the beginning of the first millennium. Previously, donkeys and horses had proved far less effective. The Soninke-speaking people of the Ghana Empire served as trade intermediaries between travelling Berber merchants and the gold-rich sub-Saharan societies. As North African Berbers converted to Islam in the later centuries of the first millennium, demand for sub-Saharan gold increased. The Soninke sought to protect their intermediary role by remaining secretive, keeping the source of their materials hidden from the Berbers. Nevertheless, as long as textiles and salt continued to travel southwards across the Sahara and gold and ivory moved northwards, all parties benefited, from the Berbers in the north, through the intermediaries of the Ghana Empire, to the resource-rich societies of the south. Trade could continue without unnecessary disruption. To briefly summarise the development of trade in northern and western Africa as the first millennium progressed, the indigenous Berbers of the north migrated southwards across the western fringes of the Sahara Desert using the hardy camel for transport. Its ability to travel for days without water while carrying heavy loads revolutionised desert trade. Textiles, salt and copper were transported southwards and exchanged for cola nuts and gold from sub-Saharan West Africa. The Ghana Empire, founded by the Soninke people, controlled this trade due to its strategic location along the route. Its capital city, Sahel, became a major urban centre. Ghana taxed every ounce of gold that entered or left its territory, a necessary measure for transporting it from north to south. During the 11th century, the Berbers of Morocco came under the influence of a powerful Islamic dynasty known as the Almoravids. Some of you may recall their story from our discussion of the Reconquista. The Almoravids not only dominated the northwest corner of Africa, but also controlled approximately half of the Iberian Peninsula, that is, the region of Europe now known as Spain and Portugal. In 1076, the Almoravid commander Abu Bakr led an army into the Ghanaian capital, Sahel, and sacked it. Although the Ghanaians resisted full conquest, the Ghana Empire was significantly weakened. In the 12th century, the empire's decline continued as rainfall decreased and the Sahara Desert expanded southwards, shrinking farmland and preventing Ghana from supporting its growing population. One vassal group within the Ghana Empire were the Soso. As Ghana's power waned, the Soso rose to fill the vacuum. Under their leader, Samanguru Kante, the Soso seized control of Sahel in the early 13th century. Around this time, a particular kingdom within the Ghana Empire, known as the Kingdom of Kangaba, had emerged in what is now southwestern Mali. This kingdom was founded by Mandinka tribesmen, whose language was ethno-linguistically related to that of the Soninke. Sumanguru Kante conquered Kangaba and, according to tradition, imposed heavy tribute and fostered widespread resentment among the Mandinka towards Soso rule. A young prince named Sundiata Keita, who had been expelled from Kangaba during this period, returned to rally the Mandinka clans and unite them in resistance to Soso oppression. The climax of this confrontation came in 1235 at the Battle of Karina, where Sundiata Keita led the Mandinka forces to victory over Sumanguru Kante's Soso army. This triumph laid the foundation for what would grow into the Mali Empire.
The emergence of Mali.
In the power vacuum left behind after the decline of the Ghana Empire, Sundiata Keita took control of the destiny of the Mandinka clans by establishing himself as their imperial ruler, known to the Mandinka as the Mansa, their word for emperor. A new capital city was founded at Niani on the Sankarani River, a tributary of the Niger River, although intriguingly the exact location of Niani remains uncertain. Mandinka historians, poets and musicians known as griots continue to recount and perform the Epic of Sundiata, a great oral tradition chronicling the life of Sundiata Keita, the first Mansa of the Mali Empire. It portrays the decline of the Ghana Empire, the tyranny of Soso dominance, the rise of Kangaba, the unification of the Mandinka clans, the Battle of Karina, and the founding of Niani. While many elements of the epic are considered historically accurate, it also contains considerable mythological embellishments designed to reinforce Sundiata Keita's divine victory over Sumanguru Kante. As a child, Sundiata was said to be physically impaired by paralysis until ancestral spirits granted him the strength to overcome his condition. With Sundiata now seemingly chosen, his destiny was to lead his people to triumph over the Soso. The influence of Islam, firmly promoted by the Almoravids and their Muslim successors in North Africa, had already reached and shaped West African populations prior to Sundiata Keita's rise. Sundiata appears to have been favourable to Islam, and its presence grew within the early Mali Empire, strengthening ties with Muslim traders from the north. The Mali Empire successfully blended elements of Islam with traditional Mandinka spirituality. At a location called Kurukan Fuga, a constitution of the Mali Empire was proclaimed, known as the Manden Charter. Although it was delivered orally, it is still regarded as one of the oldest known constitutions in the world, serving as a legal and social code for the Mandinka clans, as declared by Sundiata Keita himself. Many wise men and nobles were assembled for its initial proclamation following the victory at Karina. The assembly was called the Gubara, a deliberative council established to legislate over the empire. The Manden Charter addressed issues such as justice, the social class structure, and tribute payments, to name a few. It is comparable to the Magna Carta of the Kingdom of England and the Yasa of the Mongol Emperor Genghis Khan, each issued in their respective societies during the early 13th century. The success of the Mali Empire built upon the trade relationships that had allowed the Ghana Empire to flourish. Mali sought to control as much of these trade routes as possible. Access to the salt mines of places such as Tagaza in the Sahara Desert gave Mali the confidence to trade gold on favourable terms. Gold mining societies were eager for salt to preserve food and maintain the health of both people and livestock. The Mali Empire benefited from Wangara gold merchants operating within its sphere of influence. These merchants, native to the region, practiced Islam, making them popular and trustworthy among other societies linked to the trade network. A flexible attitude towards religion was essential for travelling merchants, allowing them to navigate both Islamic societies and the traditional animistic communities of Mali's heartlands. Aspects of Islamic worship such as Eid celebrations and Sharia law were integrated into Mali's social fabric. Women traditionally played significant roles in religious and political life, and the introduction of Islam did not greatly diminish their status within Mali society.
Daily life and society.
The majority of the able-bodied population of the Mali Empire were farmers or herders. Staple crops included millet, sorghum and rice, with the floodplains of the Niger River Valley proving particularly favourable for the cultivation of African rice. Farmers would use their produce to pay tribute, which in turn boosted the economy and helped sustain individuals such as the Imperial Army. Herders raised cattle, sheep and goats, vital for survival in the more arid regions of the empire. These herders needed to remain mobile, moving their livestock to areas where grazing was viable. Specialised craftsmen contributed to the economy through the production of leather, ceramics and metalwork. We are already familiar with the long-distance traders who maintained a steady flow of wealth within the imperial economy, and with the griots who kept the historical glory of the empire alive in the imagination of its subjects. Clans within the Mali Empire might arrange marriages between individuals to strengthen bonds or alliances. The groom's family was often expected to pay a bride wealth to the bride's family, which could consist of livestock or other goods. Only the most elite males in Mali society appear to have been expected to marry more than one woman, perhaps due to the bride wealth obligation, as relationships in rural communities seem to have been largely monogamous. Islamic law could influence inheritance traditions in Mali society. Property might be divided among sons, daughters and wives, although in some cases inheritance was strictly patrilineal. Much depended on the clan and its prevailing customs. The Manden Charter, also known as the Kurukan Fuga, provided guidance to the population regarding imperial expectations. Everyone was expected to contribute to the wider community, thereby laying the foundation for a successful empire. The Imperial Assembly, known as the Gabara, was composed of individuals from various clans and professional backgrounds. Everyone belonged to one or the other, or both, so individuals should have felt that they had some form of representation within the Gabara. The griots, the raconteurs of the Mali Empire, are known in the Mandinka language as Jelu. Using musical instruments akin to harps, xylophones and lutes, they performed engaging renditions of the foundation stories of their society and its spiritual origins. The vastness of the Mali Empire meant that musical traditions varied from settlement to settlement, and especially from one ethnic group to another. It is fair to say that these indigenous musical traditions continue to influence Malian musicians today. Such is the enduring importance of music in Mali's cultural heritage.
Mansa Musa.
Musa, the Mansa of the Mali Empire, ascended to the role of emperor in the early 14th century. An Arab historian named Al-Umari interviewed Musa in the Egyptian city of Cairo, where Musa disclosed information about his predecessor, Mansa Abu Bakr II. Musa recounted Abu Bakr's obsession with exploring the Atlantic Ocean. Abu Bakr had sent an expedition of 200 ships laden with supplies westward across the ocean. Only one ship returned, prompting Abu Bakr to personally lead a second expedition, this time with 2,000 ships. Abu Bakr never returned, and thus Musa became the new Mansa. Historians continue to debate whether Abu Bakr might have reached the Americas, but there is no definitive evidence. In fact, Al-Umari's account remains the sole source for this narrative, and arguments based on similarities in boat-building techniques or the presence of cotton in the Americas are speculative and widely challenged. Musa's empire was already wealthy when he assumed power, but under his rule, the Mali Empire's prosperity soared to unprecedented heights. So much so that some experts suggest that Mansa Musa's equivalent wealth rivals that of modern billionaires such as Larry Ellison or Elon Musk. there is a strong argument to say that he may have been the wealthiest individual in recorded history. While it is important to measure his wealth accurately, given the uncertainty surrounding his exact possessions and the difficulty of comparing medieval values to modern ones, it is nonetheless fascinating to consider that someone who lived his life in Africa could have surpassed any European, Arab or Chinese figure in terms of wealth. Mansa Musa's fortune stemmed from Mali's position at the crossroads of the most important gold trade routes of the 14th century. Prior to his reign, knowledge of Malian gold was relatively limited. As a devout Muslim, Musa saw an opportunity to showcase his empire's wealth to the wider world during his Hajj, the Islamic pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, which all Muslims are expected to undertake at least once in their lifetime. On his pilgrimage, Musa travelled with a vast quantity of gold, including 80 camels bearing gold for distribution to the poor along his route from Mali, through North Africa, across Egypt and into Arabia. The dispersal of such immense wealth in economically modest regions sent shockwaves through the eastern Mediterranean. Cairo in particular was profoundly affected, experiencing economic disruption due to the sudden influx of gold, which devalued the metal within local markets. The city took years to recover. Despite the unintended economic disruption abroad, Mansa Musa's wealth greatly benefited his own empire. He implemented stabilising administrative reforms, particularly in governance. He also brought scholars and architects from the lands he visited during his celebrated Hajj, transforming cities such as Timbuktu, absorbed into the Mali Empire during its expansion, into cities of learning complete with libraries and universities. His standing army provided security to an empire often described as the largest and wealthiest in West African history. The 1375 publication of the Catalan Atlas, created by the Jewish cartographer Abraham Cresques of Majorca, depicted Mansa Musa holding a golden orb, symbolising the newfound global awareness of a powerful and affluent West African imperial polity previously little known to the wider world.
Urban centres.
As mentioned earlier, the city of Timbuktu was absorbed into the Mali Empire and subsequently transformed. Its strategic location made it a key centre for trans-Saharan trade caravans, either linking up with other traders or stopping en route to further destinations. Salt and gold changed hands at this popular meeting point, and its growing popularity led to further development, elevating the city's prestige and importance. The diversity of languages and cultures that frequented Timbuktu turned it into a cosmopolitan marketplace. Islamic influence played a significant role in the development of the University of Sankore, which drew students from across the Islamic world. The university was one of the oldest and most prestigious in the world, though it was not a single building in the centre of Timbuktu. Rather, it comprised of a network of faculties that some sources claim could accommodate up to 25,000 students. Manuscripts collected in Timbuktu covered a wide range of subjects including astronomy, history, law, medicine, poetry and theology. The use of earthen materials such as mud brick and adobe plaster contributed to a distinctive West African architectural style known as Sudano-Sahelian, evident in the medieval buildings of Timbuktu. The thick walls provided excellent insulation against the desert heat. The traditional imperial cities of Djenné and Niani also benefited from the affluence of the Mali Empire. Djenné was a commercial and intellectual hub in its own right. Sudano-Sahelian architecture gave Djenné its iconic Great Mosque. The Great Mosque of Djenné is the largest adobe brick building in the world, though its current structure was built in 1907 under French colonial administration, replacing the ruined original that dated back to the 13th century. Despite the development of Timbuktu and Jenne, the capital city of Niani remained the political heart of the empire and the seat of the emperor. However, it did not evolve into a centre of learning in the same way as Timbuktu and Jenne. Mansa Musa was succeeded by his son Margan upon Musa's death around 1337. Margan was in turn succeeded by his uncle Mansa Suleiman. It was during Suleiman's reign that the renowned Moroccan explorer Ibn Battuta visited the Mali Empire. Ibn Battuta was highly complimentary of the people when he visited the city of Walata, remarking that he felt safe and comfortable as a traveller in a place where the justice system was admirable. He particularly noted the respect afforded to women in society and how beautifully presented they were. Although some behaviours among the population were troubling to Ibn Battuta as a strict Muslim, he nonetheless observed a strong commitment to Islam within the community. Friday prayers were taken very seriously, with the custom of wearing clean white garments on Fridays being widespread. Overall, Ibn Battuta's final impression of the Mali Empire was overwhelmingly positive.
Decline and legacy.
The passing of Mansa Musa was a significant blow to the Mali Empire, and a clear decline became apparent following the death of Mansa Suleiman around 1359. The empire had overextended itself, and as we have seen so often in history, this can lead to decentralisation. Local leaders began to place more faith in their own authority than in imperial rule, a natural consequence when a figure as commanding as Mansa Musa is no longer present. The weakening of central authority was exacerbated by rival claimants vying for power. The absence of a comprehensive succession process, not strictly hereditary, meant that various members of the Keita dynasty became rivals. With matrilineal connections holding considerable weight, queen mothers and senior consorts could wield significant political influence, each attempting to sway the course of succession, often in favour of their own sons. Chroniclers note a rapid turnover of Mansas following the reign of Mansa Musa. Ibn Battuta observed that Mansa Suleiman's wife, Qaza, acted as a partner in rule alongside her husband. Just as Timbuktu had been absorbed into the Mali Empire, so too had another important trading city, Gao. Gao operated as a vassal state and was accustomed to a degree of autonomy. As central authority weakened, the goldfields of Bambuk and Bure were raided by outsiders, and the trading cities of Timbuktu and Gao began asserting their independence. What made matters worse was that, as major trade centres, these cities could retain tax revenues for themselves rather than surrender them to Niani and the imperial administration. The region surrounding Gao was known as Songhai, named after the dominant ethnic group and ruling elite. The Songhai state had existed since around the 11th century. In the early 14th century, Songhai came under the rule of the Soni dynasty, while still under Malian control. It was under this dynasty that Songhai began to detach itself from the Mali Empire in the late 14th to early 15th century. During this period, a Berber-speaking nomadic group known as the Tuareg seized control of Timbuktu, though they preserved the city's scholarly and commercial significance. The true threat posed by Songhai emerged under the rule of Soni Ali from around 1464. He moved decisively against the weakened remnants of the Mali Empire. Soni Ali captured Timbuktu around 1468, and in 1473 he took Jenne, effectively cutting Mali off from the trade wealth that passed through these vital cities. The Malians were pushed westward into their heartlands of Kangaba and Niani. The private armies of the Malian nobility were no match for Songai's highly mobile cavalry, especially given their access to the riches of the trans-Saharan trade routes. Malian traders who had once enjoyed freedom of movement now found their journeys perilous due to the collapse of imperial security. Gold production declined, further undermining the Malian economy. Meanwhile, Europeans began to dominate trade along the Atlantic coast, cutting Mali off from this previously untapped region and shifting trade routes in favour of European seafaring merchants rather than African inland caravans. By the end of the 15th century and into the early 16th, Mali's central authority had become ineffective. Malian territories were steadily absorbed by the westward expanding Songhai Empire, reducing Mali to a small regional kingdom centred on Kangaba. Many nobles, soldiers and scholars defected to Songhai, helping to shape its court culture and bureaucratic systems. The collapse of the Mali Empire scattered Mande-speaking peoples across West Africa, but with them travelled Malian traditions. Modern griots trace their oral lineages back to the court of the lost city of Niani, once the capital of the mighty empire. Timbuktu and Djenné continued to thrive as intellectual centres long after Mali's fall, but they would not have become such prominent Islamic beacons of scholarship without the influence of the Mali Empire, especially under its greatest leader, Mansa Musa. Archaeological evidence of Mali's wide-reaching trade influence demonstrates the extent of its power prior to European arrival. Like the Kingdom of Benin and Great Zimbabwe, our two previous subjects, Mali exemplifies the strength and sophistication of African civilisations long before European contact. This is something that later Eurocentric historians worked hard to ignore. Today, there is a concerted effort to set the record straight. Manuscripts from Timbuktu and other urban centres are being preserved, showcasing the Islamic intellectual standards of medieval West Africa. Some are written in Arabic, others in Ajami, African languages rendered in Arabic script. Oral histories, traditions and artifacts all serve to demonstrate the enduring legacy of Mali's culture right through to the present day.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the History of the World podcast about the Mali Empire. And with this episode, it now brings our short mini-series about medieval Africa to a close. And it also signifies the end of all the proper episodes of Volume 4. So we've made it. We've got to the end of the longest volume of the podcast so far. And we've covered those wonderful civilisations of Africa from the medieval period, and I feel we've learned a whole lot more about Africa as a continent and its significant history, something that has been somewhat dampened by Eurocentric attempts to sort of downgrade Africa's significance, certainly during the 19th century, the 18th and 19th century in particular. But we learnt a great deal from Great Zimbabwe, from the Kingdom of Benin, and now from the Mali Empire, and so many wonderful secrets that Africa holds in its history. Now then, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, and you'd like to support the podcast, if you'd like to support the project going forward, then do please visit our website, historyoftheworldpodcast.com. Click on the Patreon link and sign up to make a monthly contribution. It really helps. You will become a lifelong member of the History of the World podcast Illuminati, and you'll qualify for all the wonderful gifts and rewards that we offer to our most loyal listeners. And just in case you can't get enough History of the World podcast, then you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Tumblr, Threads, and Mastodon. And I'm always very, very keen to hear about your feedback. So if you have any thoughts and opinions about the African series, and particularly about this episode, the Mali Empire, then do please drop me a line at historyoftheworldpodcast@mail.com. And your feedback will be discussed during one of our History of the World podcast debrief episodes. So that's it now. All that remains for us to do in this volume is our usual thing that we will do at the end of a volume, which is our summary episodes, which give us a whirlwind tour throughout the period of time that we've discussed, which is from around the year 600 through to the year 1450. So we will summarise those years, and that can take potentially 4 to 5 episodes to do that. But we will ensure that we have a good comprehensive understanding of that period, and also maybe sort of paper over a few cracks of maybe one or two things that we may have left out, significant events of that period that didn't quite fit into one of the podcast episodes. So worth listening to, and an aid to your comprehension of the period. So I encourage you to join me for that very quick journey. And apart from that, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate you joining me on this journey. And until next time, don't forget, be good.
The History of the World podcast, written and presented by Chris Hasler. Please consider making a financial contribution by going to the historyoftheworldpodcast.com website and clicking on the Patreon link. Email the show at historyoftheworldpodcast@mail.com. And don't forget to join our social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. See you next time.